making this video for reference for people who might be new to the area or still trying to figure out the bus schedule. So what it's showing us is that on Mondays and Tuesdays, this is the Popovo to Voditsa, that it's leaving Popovo at 7:30 and arriving at Voditsa at about that time. And then on the return voyage, it leaves Popovo about that time and arrives at Voditsa this time. It always goes through Kovacevic every trip. This is the schedule for Wednesday, Wednesday and Thursday. The main difference to notice here is the return trip is considerably later, right? Like an hour and 20 minutes later. It doesn't leave Popovo until 3. Then on Fridays, it's a different thing. It goes through, that says Starzen. It goes through Starzen. So the Popovo bus comes here, comes up this way, and it continues on up that way to Starzen. And then it'll circle back after it picks those guys up and stop here at the Voditsa bus stop. And you'll get to Popovo a bit later. It also on Fridays runs through Osikovo, and that's not mentioned on here, but Osikovo is another village up that way. If you take a right, it's like on a cul-de-sac. It's about an hour walk from here. But you do get to ride the bus through Osikovo. So Friday, if you're wanting to just ride around the area and see things, on this bus on Friday, you can get on it and it'll take you through Osikovo, through Kovacevic, and you get to Friday's the most interesting day probably to go to Popovo because they have the Popovo market. Things are really happening at the farmers market. And then there's another market in another part of town. You can ask people like bazaar, just to use the word bazaar and do a question mark with your shoulders like bazaar. And they'll point you to where the bazaar is. But Friday is an interesting day to ride the bus. And it's right now 3 leva 50 to take the bus either direction. Now, if you were wanting to try to take the bus from Voditsa into Starzen just for the ride, that it does not go well. They really don't want to do that. They don't like to do that. And I think it's because they don't have a fare specifically for that extension of the journey. And so I would recommend against trying to stop the bus driver to do that because it doesn't go well. I've done that twice. They really don't like it. So that's my little public service announcement about the bus. And you can expect different size buses on different days. If you're trying to avoid being on the bus with a lot of other people, Friday is probably not the day to go because it's when it has generally the most action. Okay. And I'm waiting right now to see if the bus even shows up today. I hope it does because I've got plans today, but it is a holiday. I think it'll come. But it does come a little bit late sometimes. It usually leaves Popovo on time, in my experience. But sometimes it arrives in Voditsa a little later than you expected. Okay. And if you're waiting at the bus stop on Friday, don't get nervous, right? It'll come here eventually. It just has a bit of running around to do before it gets here. Okay, ciao.